everybody. Rob Riggle.
Darren Leader.
Welcome back to Riggle's Picks. We are so honored and so lucky to have with us today Mr. Stephen Merchant. I said that very loud. It was screamy almost. Sorry.
It made me more excited the way you said it.
Yeah.
We have television royalty on our thing.
Television royalty. Wow. Yes. Yeah. That's how I want to be always described.
That's the only way you're described.
In this country, in the UK, I'm trying to get people to start referring to me as a national treasure.
Thank you.
How do you do that? Do you petition?
Yeah, well, you won over America, so you got us on your side.
I think a lot of it's to do with charity.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, I just do not do enough for charity. I don't care enough.
Do you, at the end of your shopping, when they say, would you like to donate to this, would you just say no?
There I will, because do you know what I like about it? It's involved no effort on my part.
Okay, all right.
Because I see people doing things and there's people doing charity stuff and they seem to be putting a lot of effort in. There's like people swimming the channel between France and England. They're climbing mountains for charity. I mean, it's like, who's got time in their schedule for that?
Exactly. And I mean, the risk. It's off the charts.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah. So when you see the would you like to donate at the end of a purchase, do you read it out loud so others know that you're contemplating
Well, the first thing I do is I immediately take a selfie as I'm doing it.
Yeah, of course, of course.
And I think if I round up every restaurant bill and cafe bill and little tips here and there for charity, I think by the end of my life I could have donated £14.
Yeah,
easily.
That's pretty good.
Easily.
That's making differences.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's cool.
It's changing lives.
It is changing lives, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Guys, before you get too deep into this, can I check?
Yeah.
Is this a golfing podcast?
We talk about golf quite a bit.
We like golf.
Someone said to me, you're doing the Riggle show. Do you like golf? And I thought, well. And then I thought, well, I'll check out an episode. And I listened to you and Nate Bargatze talking about golf. I'm like, I think they've got the wrong guy. I'm not big on golf.
We are nerds for golf. Like we love the game.
We appreciate the game.
That is not what this podcast is. This podcast is all about television royalty and tipping. And you're on the right one.
So you're right where you need to be. You're right in the wheelhouse.
There was a moment in time where I tried to get into golf. And initially, I thought my inability to hit the ball was because of my height. I'm 6'7" tall. I thought
I was going to ask that. Is it 6'7"?
6'7".
Wow,
so then I got some custom-made clubs.
Okay.
And it turns out I'm just shit.
Everybody is,
with the clubs.
It's very hard.
Everybody sucks at golf. No, I mean, there's like a handful of people that are good at it. Everybody else is just amateurs.
The average golfer does not break 100.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's preposterously
really
hard.
Very frustrating. That's why alcohol is such a key component to the game. It really takes the edge off.
It's the coping mechanism.
It is the coping mechanism.
I know.
Yeah.
I quite like watching golf. I quite like watching the big tournaments and just lying on the sofa and watching, because I admire the skill and the precision.
Yes.
And it strikes me a little bit like bowling, where you're sort of waiting for the other guy to screw up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's who's going to make the mistake first. It's almost like Iceman and Maverick. Ice doesn't make any mistakes. He waits for you to make the mistake, as we all know.
Hello.
As we all know.
So you're not a golfer, but you can appreciate what they do.
Oh my goodness,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's cool.
Let me ask this, do you have a sport that you prefer?
Chess.
Are you good at it?
No, but I'm enthusiastic.
That's all that matters.
And I was stuck on a holiday once, and it was bad weather the whole trip, and there was a chessboard in the place we were renting, and my friends and I started playing chess, and I've been playing chess ever since. And since the online world of chess has blown up, I play a lot of regular chess, and I've never really improved, much like with my golf game, but I find it almost meditative.
That's awesome.
I gotta say, I'm with you on that. My son adopted it. My son started playing it. That's the only reason I ever got into it, was to try to play with him. And then he got really good at it, and I never progressed.
I hit a wall, and the reason I'm looking on my phone is is I've started keeping a record of the exchanges, because what I've discovered with chess online is that I'm anonymous, and I've used a nom de plume, a pseudonym, if you will, a fake name, and for your dumb listeners, and so you can engage in a chat with the other player, and I very rarely do, but sometimes they will just initiate a chat, and they're always insulting.
What do you got?
So I've got this guy here. He's written. This was me winning the game, by the way. I was clearly in the lead, and he's written, "Are you stupid? Can you not checkmate with all of those pieces you've taken?" And I've written back, "I'm just enjoying your gameplay." And he said, "I'm just mocking you and giving you all my pieces for free." And I've written back, "In what way is that mockery? You've confused mockery with incompetence." And that was just one the other day. I have them, and what's particularly nice are the ones I find particularly delicious are sometimes you can choose a little kind of image to go with your chess handle. And sometimes they will choose icons from shows I've been involved with. Like a lot of Dwight Schrutes from The Office.
Yeah.
And so I'll get insulted by a little Dwight Schrute who's like, "You're a loser." And it's the delicious irony never ceases to amuse me.
If they only knew who they were railing against.
That's the next TV show idea is, they did Drunk History.
Yeah.
You should do reenactments of your chess chats.
Yeah. Well, I remember Jimmy Kimmel. You remember his little segment with the angry tweets?
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
And everybody's reading the insults being hurled at them.
That's amazing. And you never let people know who you are.
Never let anyone know who I am. So I kind of relish the insults.
Yeah, of course.
Here they come.
And that one sounds like a very arrogant basement dweller.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who plays chess and is down. He's yelling for a sandwich from his mom upstairs, and then he's typing in just anger, especially when he's losing.
I think the internet has just given people this sense of security that I wish that you'd have to be forced to stand in front of someone's face and say what you're saying on the internet.
Oh, it never happened.
I worry that if I had the internet when I was like 14, I'd have been the people that get very angry about movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People just like furious about movies and just write these diatribes, and they feel personally betrayed if the sequel wasn't as good as the original, and they're full of fury.
Yeah,
and I think I might have been that person because I had a lot of passion about pop culture when I was young.
Of course,
obviously, as time goes on, you realize who cares? It doesn't matter.
I think I would have been that character in Misery, where I would have verbally hobbled people if they had changed the characters or not served the needs I needed in whatever movie. Yeah, that would.
Would you have? I thought for a minute there you were gonna kidnap one of your favorite authors. Is there a particular author you would break the legs off?
Only if they portrayed the character as in the movie. No, but I did. I always was fascinated by Stephen King. I always liked his interviews. I thought he was a fascinating dude because he was so macabre and wrote these unbelievably wonderful horror stories and creepy stories. And he had one of the interviews he always said. He said, I remember this when I was young, but he said. Someone said, "Are you ever worried about, you're always exercising the dark side of your personality and, all these dark thoughts?" And he's like, "Well," he goes, "look, if I went to the gym and I just worked out my arms, I'd be a freak. I'd just be this huge upper body with toothpick legs." He goes, "I think the same thing's true for your psyche. I think beautiful thoughts and I think about love but I also spend a little time thinking about the dark side."
Yeah,
right.
And I thought, "Oh, that's okay. That makes a little more sense." That's
that makes sense.
Interesting perspective.
Yeah.
So you, my friend, I'm calling you my friend, but you are amazing. We're such fans. I'm a huge fan of the work you have done in your career. It's interesting to hear you talk about being a culture vulture when you were younger. Did you know at a young age you wanted to be a storyteller?
Well, isn't it funny how, I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you look back and you think, what a weird arrogance it was to have attempted to get into this business, particularly if you had no contacts. Like the Nepo babies make sense to me, right? Because Your father was a successful film star. Yeah, I'll give that a go. That seems achievable. But there was no one in my life who was in show business. My grandmother would occasionally play the accordion, but I'm not sure that was regarded as show business exactly. And but other than that, there was no one. And so somewhere along the line, when I was quite young, people would say, "What do you want to do?" And I'd be like, "I'd like to be John Cleese from Monty Python. That'd be fine." And it was like, and in my mind was he came from a town not far from my hometown, and he was very tall. Yeah. And that was like, well, if you need tall, funny guys from this area, sure, I'm available.
I'm your guy.
Yeah, but what a weird. And I look back now, and I'm like, what a strange arrogance or pathology that I thought I could give it a go. And I don't know where that came from particularly. It wasn't. I was a fan of stuff. Like I said, I would watch a lot and read a lot, but I wasn't, I just, for some reason I thought, yeah, I'll try that.
I got to say, I think you and I are kindred spirits in some way, because I think you grew up in Bristol, which is kind of down on the southern coast of England, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And that's not close to what I would call any entertainment centers. And I grew up in Kansas, which is right in the middle of America, not close to any entertainment centers. And I would watch Bill Murray, and I would watch Eddie Murphy. And I was like, I like that. I have nobody in my family that's in entertainment at all. And yet we gravitated towards that. So that's why I think we're very similar in that sense.
Am I right to say you went into the military?
Yes, I was in the Marines.
Was that the obvious route into show business from Kansas?
Of course,
a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't realize the natural crossover. No, I was a child of the '80s and a Midwesterner, and so I thought when you graduated university, you had to have a job, and if you didn't, shame on you. And my parents paid for my college, so I felt this obligation to have a job. And I was a theater and film major, but I would have. I was going to be a waiter upon graduation, which I could have done that without going to college. And so I felt this obligation. Also, I was blah blah blah. But I did spend some time in the military. But then I got to that critical point because I was in flight school. And I said, I think I have to be an actor. I think I want to be a comedian and an actor. And again, not knowing anybody, not knowing any path. I just knew that I had to try it. And so then I started to set the path to try to get there. And I got myself to New York and did it.
Well, it's interesting because when I was growing up, a lot of the people that I admired, mainly British talent that I admired, people like Spike Milligan, who these names won't be familiar to a lot of Americans, but they were very influential on American, on British comedy in the 50s, and Peter Sellers. And a lot of those guys had been in the army, in the war, and a lot of them had become entertainers during the war in the kind of troop entertainment section, And so they had weirdly this kind of this experience that had been born of conflict that had led them into entertainment, and the sort of generation that followed them were people that had been to the fancy universities in Bristol, like John Cleese, and so that was my initial plan, was like, okay, I'll go to Cambridge. Because that's how you, and then it turns out it's not as easy to just go to Cambridge. And so I didn't go to Cambridge, and I'm like, well, I guess that's it then. I guess show business over. There's no other routes. And,
I hear you though. I thought the only way to get on Saturday Night Live was to go through Second City in Chicago.
Right.
I thought, well, if you don't do that path, you're not going to make it. So that's
you're done for. Yeah.
Hey, Steven, when you were a teenager and you were absorbing all the films and you were doing all that, what were some of your favorite films that you remember just watching over and over and over that really helped shape your sense of humor and that made you just feel good? What style of movie was it?
Well, initially it was old comedies from like the 30s and 40s, bizarrely. That's the stuff my dad was into. So it was Bob Hope movies and Marx Brothers movies and Laurel and Hardy. So there was slapstick, but there was also the thing I always liked about Bob Hope, and people tend to think of him as older and as kind of a stand-up, but his early movie character, the kind of nervous sort of wannabe ladies man who's kind of, who's trying to act like he's cool, but actually he's scared. It's such a great comic persona that a lot of people have done since, right? But I just found that so charming and so funny, and I was always enamored of that. And then I started getting into particularly American sitcoms like MASH and Roseanne and Cheers. Yeah. And then I don't know if we can name him anymore. I don't know whether he's been cancelled or not. I think he has. But I guess Woody Allen was big, right? Because suddenly Woody Allen, like, he took that Bob Hope persona, but he sort of brought an intellect to it. That you could do comedy about something. It could be kind of more.
It was a wonderful character trait, that neurotic attitude, but it didn't take away from the intellectual weight of whatever he was doing.
That's right. And I guess maybe because, and this is going to be a shock when you look at me, but I was a 6'7" guy, kind of gangly, goofy, glasses. I was not as much of a hot stud as you'd think.
Yeah.
You're just describing perfection. So I don't know.
But so I guess that kind of persona of the nervous guy around women, and all that was just such a funny.
Well, I'm with you. Like, there's certain comedic games, if you will, comedic character gamesmanship that, like, that I've seen pulled off. Like when Eddie Murphy acts tough. When he starts talking like, he starts getting, for whatever reason, it'll always kill me. It'll kill me to the day I die. It's just something resonates true about it. And I remember when I was doing Upright Citizens Brigade in New York, the comedy game I loved to play the most was Arrogant Ignorance, which is large and in charge, but totally wrong-headed, but absolutely convinced of my, my rightness.
That's such
There's something about that kind of game that always pleased me. So the nervous ladies' man wannabe is a great comedic game. It's just like one of the best games there is.
The problem was that I pursued that as a shtick for a long time, in stand-up and in on-screen stuff, and also kind of when I started doing podcasting and radio. And then I moved out of that in real life. I stopped being that guy in real life because I was older and I had money.
More confidence. Yeah,
I was tipping big for charity. And yet people couldn't see beyond it. So now there's still a portion of people that recognize me or know me that sort of still assume that's who I am, rather than a persona that I sort of adopted,
I thought your work in Extras was brilliant. I thought it was just brilliant. And everybody really played their role so beautifully. It was this beautiful dovetailing of everybody coming together in just the perfect way, I thought. Did you enjoy playing that character?
Well, that was a show where, so I was behind the scenes when we did the British version of The Office. Ricky Gervais and I did that together, and I was behind the scenes directing and writing with him and stuff. But I always thought of myself as a performer. So when we came to do a follow-up, which turned out to be Extras about, like you say, extras, behind the scenes of movies, it felt like, I'm a kind of resource because I'm here on set anyway. And so I put myself in it. And so, and it was because that it's sort of born naturally from the writing room. It just became a joy because it was I play like an agent. For those that haven't seen it, I play like Ricky's character's agent.
Anybody who's ever had a manager or an agent, I felt every moment of it. I felt every moment of those conversations.
Well, it was the idea of like, who's the worst man to have on your team? The guy who has probably had business cards printed up in like a gas station, and he's also holding down a second job in like a cell phone store, and and he just can't remember the projects you've done, and he's making notes, but they're like Post-its that are falling off the wall. So it's just that. And so of course, like you say, playing an idiot who thinks he knows what he's doing is a joy, isn't it, from start to finish?
It's a pleasure. But you also, this is the beauty of I think, talented actors like yourself, but talented actors and talented storytelling, or good storytelling, is when he let you go. I was heartbroken. I felt it. I really did. I was like, oh no, don't do that, but because you were wounded in that, and you'd screwed up or whatever. The character knew, and I don't know. I thought that you guys do a great job of capturing the ups and downs of that stuff.
Well, I think I think one of the joys of comedy, particularly kind of situation comedy, is that the audience starts to get to know the characters more than perhaps they can in a movie, because they get to see them week on, week out, and their investment in them grows. Even if it's a comic character, I think they just they're familiar to them. They sort of have been with them a while. And so when you then throw in a kind of emotional sucker punch, even for a character who's kind of a doofus, the audience can go with it because there's an investment in that, which is, and I've always liked that aspect of comedy being able to pull the wool and or pull the rug from your feet and perhaps bring a tear to the eye. I've always enjoyed that as a viewer and as a writer. Yeah.
Same. I feel that's when you feel like you've been through something, you've really experienced something awesome, and you sink your teeth into it. Watching extras, I still quote it to this day. Whenever I'm on set or whatever, I'm always joking about, can we rub some shit in her hair? Can we, like just, there's so many moments that if you've ever been in the business, you feel it on a real deep level.
Have you ever found when there's lines from movies and shows that you remember and you use them in real life, but then at some point they become detached from the context? Yes. Right. So there's a line in the movie Swingers where in the movie Swingers, they all go to like a happening bar. Yeah. And it's kicking off and it's like a great vibe. And they say, let's leave. And one of them goes, this place is dead anyway.
Yeah.
And it's clearly not dead, right? Like it's lively, it's full of energy. Like they're just like, this place is dead anyway. Anyway, so me and my friends started using that when we would be out. But we'd start using it now in places that were dead. So like now we're using it. So we go to a party and then we'd leave and then we'd say, this place is dead anyway. And the host would hear and be like, okay.
Yeah, you wounded them and you didn't mean to.
You didn't even realize.
That's the thing. Like these lines get into your vernacular and the lexicon of the everybody. And it just becomes, you don't even realize, because I still quote lines from Caddyshack, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And I forget, like, they don't know my reference here.
Right.
It used to be it was common usage. And now I find that, especially the younger folks, I'll drop a reference or something and they'll just look at me like I'm just mean.
Well, it's
I'm like, no, that was I'm sorry, wait, don't leave.
Yes,
It's like listening to the young people speak. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
The Riz and the dead ass and it sounds like they're all having an episode. And I don't get it.
Well,
I
was actually
stuff.
Go ahead.
Is that kind of the vernacular that young people adopt? Like, is that, because I don't have kids, so I'm not able to monitor it. But I guess it's like, does it change more rapidly than it used to?
It feels like it does.
Yeah. That you could be out of date. You could be 14 and completely out of date with 13-year-olds.
So I have a son and a daughter, and I can't remember when because I'm not cool, but the term on fleek was a thing. So like if your eyebrows were all done up, your eyebrows would be, Claire, are you laughing at me?
You could hear that?
Yeah, I could hear that. So your eyebrows would be on fleek. And I think it was like 7-10 years later, I would say to my daughter, man, that's really on fleek. And she would just go, oh my God, Dad. You're like the dad from that show, Right Off.
Yeah.
Better Off Dead.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it because the vocabulary goes
also,
so
I
fast.
think when you get to a certain age, it doesn't matter what you say. Even if you're right, even if you got the vernacular right, it doesn't matter. You're too old to say it.
But
disqualify
I could say that's gnarly, and it feels right.
Yeah, because that's our generation.
Yeah, I guess I can't say cool Riz, dead ass on God cap.
I still say Audi 5G.
See, that's what I'm talking. That's cool.
Come on, thank you.
Do you say that, Steven? Do you ever say Audi 5G?
Never heard that one before. In what context would I use that, Grandpa?
So Audi.
So you would say
Audi 5G means They used to say I'm out of here. I'm Audi. I'm Audi, and then the car Audi 5000 became Audi 5G, as in Audi 5 grand. So then I'm Audi 5G means I'm leaving.
I gotta say, as you're explaining it,
you hate me.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I know. I hate myself.
It's just embarrassing.
I might say, this place is dead. This place is dead anyway. I'm Audi 5G.
Yes.
That actually would be gold to me. That would be solid gold.
That's top of the mountain quote stuff right there. I'm Audi 5G. This place is dead anyway.
Yeah.
This is the greatest podcast ever.
Well, I'm actually excited because I'm glad to hear you said that you appreciated some American sitcoms growing up, and you appreciated that. I was kind of I don't know what an Anglophile in some ways. I always thought the English comedy and the English, obviously the accent, and just, I don't know, I just appreciated all of the English things. I was an Anglophile.
The Benny Hill show.
I like that because you could see boobs on that show, which was big in America. Big.
Yes.
Big in the early 80s. You couldn't see that anywhere else. So that was good, but Monty Python, and I just always appreciated their work, and I don't know. I'm glad to hear you say that because I think it goes both ways. I think a lot of Americans always appreciated English comedy.
Absolutely.
As well.
Well, how were you accessing it? Because I think that's what's interesting is in the way it's changed. And I think one of the things that streaming has done for the better is it's kind of democratized the exchange of cultural stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a way that, like, when I was growing up, Squid Game would never have become a phenomenon, right? Like,
yes.
I mean, it would have been a fringe show on a late night cable somewhere, Yeah. And so the idea that people can discover and, people can discover comedy or movies or whatever that they perhaps wouldn't have previously feels a lot more achievable now. Whereas I remember even when the British Office started to get a little bit of buzz among kind of Hollywood types, it was on DVD or it was shared around on and at one point we found out Samuel L. Jackson was a fan. Yeah. And I was like, this image of did he have the DVD? Was he trying to get the plastic wrapper off and he had to get a key, to scratch it to get it started, and he's in his slippers with his coffee. Oh, I hear this is good. Just the idea of that was so unusual to us. So weird, the idea that there were people that had heard about it. This is 20-something years ago.
Yeah. So my interesting story. I had heard about the British version of The Office through Comedy Friends. I was in New York at the time, and I said, okay, well, so somehow I got a DVD. Turns out it didn't work in American DVD players. So my first one still sits on the shelf as I can't use it. So then I've got some copy of it on, and that's when I first got exposed to that. Then I was on SNL at the time you guys were casting for the American version, and I actually went in and read for Michael Scott, and I read for Dwight.
Wow.
Back
really?
at 30 Rock, because I was right up on 17th floor and then came down to audition for those roles. Yeah. And
did you get the gig?
Cool. That's all right. But you're right. My girlfriend is Polish, and I watched a Polish comedy, which I never thought I would have, called 1670. It was, about a village in 1670, and it's hilarious. It's actually, I thought it was very well written. The comedy was great. The acting was great. But again, it was one of those shows. I would have never seen a Polish comedy in my life. Where did
we get, did we watch Benny Hill on network? I can't remember.
We saw it on HBO. I saw HBO because they showed boobs.
Right.
And you couldn't see that on regular television. You could only see boobs on HBO. And he was not like it was prevalent or whatever, but he would do a show, and then at the end of the show, there'd be a little burlesque, or he would chase the girls around or something. Yeah. That was generally the end of it. But Monty Python was really the link. It was Life of Brian. It was The Meaning of Life. It was, all the hits. And it was kind of, you could only get that on VHS. Mm-hmm. So, you heard about it through the older kids. There was a couple of hipsters and cool guys out there that knew, like, have you seen Life of Brian? And you'd be like, no. And they go, all right, you need to stop whatever you're doing and you need to watch this, and you'd be like, all right. And then you watch it and you'd be like, oh my God. And then I'll be honest, like on first viewing, I missed a lot of it. I didn't understand, or I wasn't hip enough, or what. But then I would watch, and about the third or fourth viewing, I'd be like, oh my God, this is the most quotable, hilarious, smart, great comedy I'd ever seen in my life. So,
but it's interesting. It kind of goes the other way as well, because Saturday Night Live, for years when I was growing up, it was never on British TV. It was just never shown anywhere. And so the only time you became aware of the personalities was if they made hit movies, right? So of course. Wayne's World, or, those few that really popped, you'd be like, who? Oh, the Ghostbusters or whatever. But prior to that, these people came from nowhere.
Yeah.
So you're just suddenly seeing these faces, like, these people are hilarious. Where have they been? Because we just never saw it,
Yeah. But you're right. Streaming has changed the whole game. And it's great. It's globalized it. It's made it more accessible. It's made it more fun. You discover all these wonderful talents that are out there.
Yeah.
It's been very cool. One of the great, being an Anglophile myself, one of the great honors that I ever had was I got to do a movie with Terry Jones.
Oh, yeah.
I got to do his last movie, actually. It was a fine movie. It didn't do much, I don't think, but it was, I think I was the only American on the cast, and it was quite an honor. I just always considered that an honor. And while we were shooting the movie, I was by myself over there, and he approached me one day and said, I understand you're by yourself. And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, would you like to come over this Saturday? And I was like, yeah. He goes, well, why don't you meet me at my pub, which was the Duke of York. And I said, okay. So he gave me the address. I go in over. He goes, I'm a Welshman, just so you know. So I'm kind of a sommelier of ales. Do you know anything about ales? And I was like, I don't know jack squat about ales. He goes, well, sit down. We drank more ale that day. And then we went from there back to his apartment, or back to his house, and we ate fish, which I don't eat fish, but we did it because I was hammered and hungry. But he was so gracious and so kind.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely.
Yeah, it was really nice. Everybody on the cast was everything I would hope they would be. They were charming. They were pleasant. They were funny. They were down to do bits. So I just had the best time. That was a very cool experience.
What's your experience of meeting heroes like that? Because that sounds like that was a really nice one. Have you always been fortunate in that way?
I think I have been. I've only run across one or two people who, and even then, I give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, it's a tough day. Whatever. I've had bad days. I get it. I'm always making excuses for them. So, and that's only been like one or two tops. Everybody else, I've been very blessed, and that's, I think, one of the joys of working in comedy. I'm curious about your experience, but working in comedy, you generally find people who are in a good mood and want to laugh and are down for a bit.
Likewise. No, I've been very lucky. But there's something thrilling about when you meet someone that you admire and you hit it off with them, or isn't it interesting that people are always like, oh, you met so and so, are they nice?
Yes.
Are they nice? That people want people we admire to be nice, don't we?
Yeah.
They're like this obsession with.
Completely.
This is why I'm doing so much for charity, so that this is the reputation
I met Prince once, and he was not nice.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But
Prince,
he strikes
tiny.
me as
he's tiny.
He strikes me as like stratosphere level. Like he
but you know what? You don't have to be a dick. I don't care. I don't know how stratarific you are.
Well, but he's Prince and you're heavy metal.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't cost anything to be polite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was have you shared this before? What was your experience with Prince? Because I'm a big Prince fan. I love Prince.
Musically, Prince is musically, Prince was unreal, like unbelievable. But we were at a venue, and what Prince used to do is he would do a concert. He had a big arena, and then afterwards he would have his people organize a club in the city he was in. And his deal was, I'm going to come to your club. This was like before internet. Yeah. I'm going to come to your club. You put the word out on the streets. I'm going to charge at the door. I'm keeping the door. You keep the bar. The club's like, yes, you're Prince. We're going to slam it. It's going to be awesome. Nobody buys drinks because they're just all glued to the stage to see when he's going to come. So he ended up using our instruments because we played earlier that night. So he comes in, he doesn't bring any backline. He uses your instruments. And of course you say yes because he's Prince.
Yeah.
Well, he shows up with his entourage. We get kicked out of our own dressing room for Prince. I get it.
Yeah.
Tenure. I respect it.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
But we were told, do not look Prince in the eye. That's a real thing.
I heard about that.
That's a real thing. Don't look Prince in the eye. Okay, well, of course, if you tell me not to do that, I have to do it. I did it. That was fine. It was weird. We kind of locked for a second. I was like, this is awkward. He goes on 2 hours late. Everybody's just waiting, and you can feel that, like the people are getting restless. He comes on. He does a song, plays the guitar, or guitar player's guitar. At the end of that song, holds it up over his tiny little head, and he drops it on the ground. Behind him, onto the ground. Like, I don't know the reason.
Well, the moment caught him, the moment.
Yeah, well, I would say that, except for on the second song, he played the bass, playing the bass. At the end of the song, he lays the bass, so there's a drum riser, it's about a foot high. He lays the bass on the stage and the drum riser at an angle. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, he's just putting the bass down. Takes his tiny foot and he proceeds to just crack the neck. He just broke the guitar.
Like a karate move.
Full Tiny Prince karate. Yes.
Tiny Prince
he's
karate
like that
demo?
Dr. Pepper guy. So, we're in the band. We're like, what are you doing?
We don't have the money for these instruments.
Yeah, and so his manager comes up to us at the end. I swear, this was such a baller move. But for me, it was a dick move. He flips our guitar player and he flips our bass player a clean $100 bill each and goes, okay, boys, go get those fixed up. And then they just peeled out and we were standing there just like, what the hell just happened? So for Prince to do that to a band that was relatively unknown, like you didn't have to power jock our
okay,
but that's because you looked him in the eye. You were told not to look him in the eye.
You were told. You were
warned.
You were warned, Darren.
You know what? I never put two and two together, Steven, and I appreciate you. My bad. You know what? Prince is a good guy. He did tell us.
You're the one in the wrong in this story, and you've never realized it.
All these years you've been telling that story, you never realized you don't eyeball the man.
You know what? You guys are totally right. I'll take it. Damn it. Prince is a great guy.
My friend is a big kind of Prince aficionado. He's written a book about Prince, and he went. Prince did like 21 shows at the O2 Arena here in London, and he went to I think every show, and he would sit in different seats around the stadium. And one night he's there, and this was in the round, so there was like a stage in the middle of the, probably in the shape of the Prince logo, and so he's moving in different seats each night, and he's there one night, and they're bringing on like an equipment case, like a flight case, they're carrying it on, and it gets caught on like a cable or something. And my friend just peers at the thing, and you can see through a little gap, and it's Prince huddled inside with his guitar and his full outfit being smuggled to the stage, right, which is middle of the stage, so he can't.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd have to be under there for like 3 hours, right? So they have to get him onto so he's in this case. And he's just, and my friend just locks eyes with Prince, who's just kind of there looking back out of him, who kind of gives him a don't say anything look. And he's moved on. Now, there was an instance where he locked eyes with Prince, and, Prince could have ruined the show, but he didn't. He delivered.
Yeah, he did come through. Because he within his contract, I'm sure he could have walked at that point.
Absolutely. Anyone locks eyes with me, I'm out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Hey, you know what? We're getting signs from Gary. We're getting signs that we got to wrap this up. God dang it, Gary.
Come on, man.
Steven, you are a wonderful guest.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I didn't share more of my feelings about golf.
No, you shared quite enough of your feelings about golf.
It's so good. It's really, and I mean this sincerely, it's really an honor to meet you and get to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a real pleasure. I am very honored to have been asked to be on. And I guess I'll get back out there, get training for that big charity run I'm doing.
Steven, thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you, Steven. Take care.
Okay, bye.
How awesome is that?
Wonderful.
I love that. What a nice guy. And a pleasure and took the time to talk to us and enjoy it. And you didn't do anything terrible, right, Gary? Would you agree?
I don't know. I mean, some of those questions were, terrible is probably a stretch.
All right. Well, don't worry about what he said. I'm saying you did a good job.
It's hard not to.
I'm saying you did a good job. Claire, you back me up?
Yeah.
See? That's 2 votes.
It just sounded
that was very Canadian of her.
It didn't sound like real.
She's an American now, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but saying that it was a good job was Canadian.
I'm on Team Darren.
Thanks.
Yeehaw.
Thanks, Rob.
Great job today.
You did a great job.
Come on.
No. It's all you.
Come on.
You did great.
Come on.
Don't let anyone take you down.
Enough.
Okay?
Please. It's
You're
not
wonderful.
About me.
You're great looking.
Yep.
People like you.
You're embarrassing me
funny
now.
as hell.
You're embarrassing me.
You may want to consider going into showbiz because
Okay.
people will like you.
Rob, we record video on the podcast too, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Friends, that was Stephen Merchant all the way from across the pond talking to Riggle's Picks. Darren, thanks for another great episode.
Dude, I'm just here co-piloting your rocket ship to awesomeness.
Hey, everybody, for Gary, Claire, I'm Rob Riggle. This has been Riggle's Picks.
I'm Darren Leader.
Darren Leader also with us. Thanks for listening.